and welcome to our podcast, Books Don't Review Themselves. I'm Kim.
I'm Jessica.
And today we are going to be talking about The Girl on the Porch by Richard Chizmar. I'm going to read the synopsis really quick so you all know what it's about, since in the past we have kind of forgotten to do that until about midway through. So, really quick, when the Tuckers' next-door neighbor mentioned someone rang their doorbell late the previous night, Sarah and Kenny Tucker check their home security camera and discover something shocking. The doorbell ringer also visited their house, and it wasn't a teenager playing a prank, but instead a terrified young woman with a shackle hanging from her right wrist. She anxiously pressed the doorbell again and again, glancing over her shoulder, as if someone was coming for her, before giving up and taking off into the dark. Almost overnight, she becomes known as the Girl on the Porch, and she's everywhere. There are updates on the local networks, national coverage on CNN and Fox News, and the video goes viral on social media. Before long, everyone has seen the harrowing security camera footage. Kenny and Sarah figure it's only a matter of time before someone recognizes the woman. But as the days pass and no one comes forward, odd things begin to transpire around the Tucker family. Now, we felt differently about it. I started reading it right before bed, and I was flipping, reading, and it just stopped. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I tried, hitting the right a couple times. It didn't go. Went back, forward, and I'm like, duh, I need to look at the progress bar. So I did, and I saw that I was at 99%. And it was about midnight, and I'm like, I was pissed. I'm like, how could it end like this?
Right.
There are so many unanswered questions. So I stewed for like 20 minutes, like trying to think of things that could have happened, and then I went to bed. Then the next morning I got up, and I started thinking a little bit more about it, and I went from thinking of giving this review a 3-star to a 5-star, because I think Richard Chizmar might be a genius. So you.
And after we've kind of discussed it a little bit more, it's grown on me a little bit more. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the whole concept, the storyline, everything. I enjoyed that. But to me, the book felt unfinished. Mm-hmm. It felt like there were several loose ends. Like I was saying to you before, was that it's one thing to have a cliffhanger. It's another thing to just have like tons of cliffs
and just end the book.
Yeah, because you don't really get a good perception of any of the characters. Mm-hmm. You don't really even have time, because the book is 155 pages. You don't even really have time to develop a relationship with the characters to even really guess, because it moves quickly. Mm-hmm. And then you basically get one answer,
who it was,
mm-hmm. and then it ends.
Mm-hmm. And it ends, like you said, with so many more questions.
Right. And as I think just a human being, we want answers. We want to know who did it, why they did it. You want the gory details. I mean, that's why things like the news and whatever.
That's why people watch it all the time.
Right.
Because you want to know more. And that's why you read autobiographies,
right?
Because you want to get
know
the
more.
Details.
Yeah, you want the dirty details,
mm-hmm.
and you don't get that in mm-hmm. this book at all. Mm-hmm. I compared it to like an episode of Criminal Minds, except it doesn't.
Usually, Criminal Minds, you get a little bit more information.
Yes. Even in one episode of Criminal Minds, it usually ties together in the end mm-hmm. to some extent.
You find out, why the killer, they were abused as a child,
right,
or something like that. But this, you don't find out any information about it.
No, you don't.
And that to me, that is the biggest point that I'm still a little, I don't want to say annoyed with, but I wish it would have happened. But at the same time, that's why I say he's a genius. Ooh,
excuse me.
It's okay. But at the same time, that's why I say he's a genius, because in real life, you don't have all the answers.
Right.
You'll see whatever the news gives you, but unless you have a person down at the police station that gives you insider information, which most of us don't have, you are not going to know what actually happened.
You're only going to know what's publicized.
Exactly.
Which is usually the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that you had mentioned was the fact that, and it's very true, that back in the day, when a new neighbor moved in, someone brought someone a pie or mm-hmm. something. That doesn't really happen anymore. Mm-mm. So you really don't know who you're living next to. You don't know what they're capable of. You don't know anything about them.
Mm-hmm. And in this neighborhood, they did kind of know each other because some of them had gone to high school together. And like the next door neighbor was a police officer, and he was older, like in his 70s, 60s or 70s. So since it was a different generation, he would have came and talked to people. So this neighborhood actually did know each other a little bit more than I would say the average neighborhood.
Unless you maybe live like in a cul-de-sac, like, or like a very,
if your families live there and then you get your family's house or something. But for me, in our old neighborhood, before we moved here, I got to know the neighbors because our neighbor Kitty Corner, he was in his 70s. So he was still of that generation where you go talk to your neighbors. So he talked to us, and then he introduced us to the other neighbors in the neighborhood. But here, when we moved here like 2 or 3 years ago, I wave at my neighbors. If you ask me their names, I would be at a loss. I could not tell you.
Kind of a side note, but in Wisconsin, we had some really bad storms and tornadoes touch down. And in front of my house, I have a big maple tree. And like 75% of that snapped off and fell across the street onto 3 vehicles. We had a couple of trees down my road. One fell on a house. The other one fell and hit a brick house. It was a mess. And so after the storm kind of cleared a little bit, everyone came outside to see if everyone was okay. And that was the first time I've had conversations with several of my neighbors. And I've lived there for like 5 years.
That's typical.
I knew who lived across the street, but I didn't really ever have conversations with them. And then again, the neighbor on one side of me, I would wave usually when I'm letting my dogs out or whatever. That was the first time that oh yes, I'm Jessica, nice to meet you, whatever.
And that's the same with us here. We had a tree fall on our porch in the garage, and our neighbor right that way behind us, I know they're a young couple, but we found out that his dad actually owns the house and he owns other rental properties. And he came over to talk to us because we had someone cutting down the tree and he wanted to know where we got the tree people from. I learned something new.
You don't know. Like, you just don't know your neighbors. And even nowadays, and I feel old saying nowadays, I've always said I've always said I'm never going to say that. But you don't just go over to a random person's house. And quite frankly, I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't answer the fucking door. If I don't know who's there, I'm hiding, I'm ducking.
I'll grab a knife.
Like, I'm not answering the door. My husband, he swapped out our front door before we had like a wooden door with a window. Now it's just like a front door, no window. And he surprised me and came home early from work, and he works 24-hour shifts, so I was not expecting him home. It was like 6 o'clock, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table on my computer, whatever, and I have like the blind shut. I have my door locked already, and I hear a knock on the door, and I'm like, fuck. I'm not answering it. And I'm like, I wonder if they can see me. And then it kept knocking, and I'm like, okay, this person's not going away. I'm like, I don't know what to do. It was literally like probably 4 minutes. And they continued to knock. And I'm like, what the fuck? It was Josh.
Oh, you didn't have a key or something?
No, he knew. He was just fucking with me because he knew I wouldn't answer the door. And so, like, I'm going and trying to, like, peek to see who it is. Because I'm like, is someone selling something? Like, why? And then I thought maybe it was you guys. So I'm like, I know you guys would be persistent. Like, you would see that
but we'd yell, too. I'd be like, Jessica, open the door.
Yeah. And then finally, I opened the door just a little bit. And it was my husband. But, yeah, I don't answer the door. If I don't know you or I don't know you're coming over, I'm not answering the door.
And for me, it's that, but also most of the time I don't have pants on, so I need to go find my pants.
Well, and that's the funny thing is, like, my husband always makes fun of me because he's like, you're never, like, you just walk around and you don't care, and I'm like, I pay my taxes. I'm inside. I'm not outside.
I have a shirt and underwear on.
Yeah.
It's more covered than a bikini, so it is fine.
Right. But it's just, I wouldn't even answer the door, like I said, if someone just happened to come over.
So that was like a really off topic, but yet it still does go back to the book.
Yeah. The book really encompasses that you don't know people as well as you think you do.
20 years ago, if this would have happened, there's no way you would have thought it was your neighbor.
Right.
But this happens, and like the next sentence is, which one of our neighbors do we think it is?
Right.
So to me, that really felt true to life, which I really enjoyed.
Right. Because I mean, quite frankly, if you had a stabbing in your neighborhood, you'd be like, I wonder which house. You wouldn't be like, oh, that
wouldn't happen here.
Yeah, that wouldn't cross your mind. You'd be like, all right, who did it?
Yeah. I'd be peeking out my window and...
Yeah. And so the book really does a good job with that.
Yes.
Like I said, I would almost like a little more meat in the middle of the book, where just a little more information about the characters, because
it was hard, like we were saying, to guess, because when we read thrillers that are 350 pages, you have more room to expand upon the characters, and there's more clues and more insight into the characters, so you can kind of be like, oh, that would make sense that it's this person.
Yeah, and there's nothing in his storyline that I feel like I would change. Like, I wouldn't change how it ended. I wouldn't change what his thought process was for the storyline. If just maybe just a little more information.
And he kind of starts doing it a little bit because there's like everyone has a secret, and some people have more secrets than other people, and the secrets start like slowly getting leaked. But even with those secrets, there's still not enough information for you to feel confident of choosing someone who's done it.
There was like 1 or 2 times that I thought, okay, maybe it was this person, but I wasn't confident in that. You know, where other thrillers I have read, I'm like, oh, it was for sure this person, and then I might be wrong or whatever. But this is the first time I've read something of this nature where it's written in this way and it's short and, you know, to the point. So I'd be interested to see like what your guys' thoughts are. It's a very quick read, you know, like you said, it's an hour to 2 hours maybe of your time. Like if you sit and read it.
I was comparing him to Stephen King because Stephen King's short stories are similar like this. I feel Stephen King's short stories have more details, but they don't end happy, you know, rarely. Right. And what was the other thing I was going with? They don't end happy, and they leave you with questions. Right. In my written review, I had wrote a little bit. I'll read just a part of it. Shortly after this, the book comes to an end. Although the story is wrapped up, there are still so many questions, the biggest one being why. But this is where Chizmar, in my mind, joins the legendary writers of horror, King, Straub, Jackson, Shelley, Barker, Ketchum, Lovecraft, and Poe, who do not write happy endings. They leave you with questions, and those questions fester in your brain, making the normal seem sinister.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely what he wanted to do, and I think he accomplished that. It's just someone who's not accustomed to that.
It could make you angry.
Yes, because...
Which is good. To me, that's a good writer, though, because...
if you just finish the book and you're like, nah,
yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Then was it really a thriller? Was it really...
But if it leaves you angry, then that's why, like with actors too, or actresses, when I hate them so much, to me, that's a great actress, you know, or actor, because they're giving you feelings that...
Because you believe they are who they're playing.
Exactly.
And so I think this would be kind of interesting as TV show, or maybe it wouldn't be a full show, but like an episode, or even just like a movie.
I could see like Hulu trying to expand upon it, like a 6-episode TV show or something.
It's definitely sinister, especially how it ends.
I loved it. Yeah. 5 out of 5. I highly recommend it. And going back to the other horror authors that I'd mentioned, we were thinking hopefully sometime in October, the whole month of October.
Right. We want to do something with, 31 days of horror or whatever. We just got to figure out how we want to do that.
So if you have any ideas, let us know. Below,
authors,
message us something.
Books. I think I would give it probably a 3 or 4 out of 5. I'm not totally sure.
Need to stew on it for a couple
days. Yeah,
because
I finished it on my lunch. And so I kind of, when I finished it, I was like, what the fuck?
Were you angry at me? Were you like, Kim, why did you say we should read this one?
I wasn't angry for reading it because I enjoyed, like I said, the storyline. But I was just kind of, it felt so incomplete. But then, like you said, the more I thought about it, and after discussing it with you, and I'm like, that does make sense, and it's kind of changed my view on it. So like I said, I do really like the storyline. It is a good book. It's just the way it was written a little bit, with it being so short and so quick and no answers. I was like, do I like this? Or like, because you want to know more. And I think that's anybody's nature nowadays.
Human nature. We want to know more. I will definitely read more of his. I just need to find the time, but I would like to.
So we hope you guys check out this book. Give us your thoughts and feedback. We are really interested to see kind of whose side you're on. And you can check out our link below. We'll have links to
social media,
Yep.
our merchandise store. And that's pretty much it. As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors who you don't know, just knock on their door and be like, hey,
Yeah.
you need to subscribe to Books Don't Review Themselves because it's awesome. And they won't even answer their door. So
Yeah, so just post something on their door. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you next time.
Bye.